A couple of weeks ago, I made a video on the topic of social media that blew up. It was mainly about what happens once you start actively consuming social media again after barely using it for a period of 3 months. And I didn't just share my personal story, but I also went into some of the scientific mechanisms behind doomscrolling, and I also gave the viewer a framework which allowed them to, for the case if they wanted to get off social media themselves, to do it effectively. And you see, I went through almost all the comments and I was honestly shocked, positively, by seeing how many people were just commenting and saying that their lives improved after reducing social media consumption and replacing the social media consumption with more meaningful activities. I mean, that was one of the main points that I focused on in the framework of when you want to quit social media, you need a replacement habit, else the whole thing doesn't really work and you just get addicted to it again. So it just made so much sense to me to make a sequel and focus on ranking the different kinds of replacement habits that exist out there. You see, there are so many different habits, and being able to discern between which activities actually lead to human flourishing and living an overall better life and which ones just keep you in a bubble of stagnation, ones that perhaps look good from the outside but actually do nothing on the inside, is crucial, especially if you want to get off social media. You want to make sure that you do it as effectively as possible and do not waste your time, which is why I would say let's get straight to the ranking. We're going to be ranking 25 habits today, and the way how I'm going to be ranking them is actually quite simple. The higher something is, the more it helps you flourish as a human and the less it makes you feel the need to doom scroll, and the lower it is, the more meaningless it is and the more it actually makes you want to go back to your phone. So remember, the higher the habit is ranked, the more conducive it is not only to you getting off your phone, but also to evolving as a human being. Now, of course, it's important to mention that this ranking is not going to be universal. It's not like there's one golden standard for this. The majority of the ranking is going to be based on my personal experiences and also based on scientific reasoning and experiences I've heard and read from other people, just so that this ranking is as sophisticated as possible. And if you don't agree with me on something, just let me know in the comments if you would rank something higher or lower. I'm totally open to a discussion, as always. That's what makes this so good, which is why I would say let's get straight into it. Okay, so the first one is gooning. I think this one's very obvious. I mean, you could argue that activities like gooning or consuming adult content are even worse than doom scrolling from a neurochemical perspective. So yeah, if you already have a phone addiction and want to goon, things are not looking good for you, man. The next one is walks in nature. This one's pretty good. It's underrated, I would say. People should do this more often. It just takes 10 to 20 minutes, 30 minutes, and the benefits are amazing. Just being able to go to your local forest, or if you're in a city, just walk in the park. Do it a couple of times and your mood will improve. I've been doing this pretty often, especially on days where I do not go training. I just want to get a walk in, and that's where this really comes in handy. The thing is, you can't do it all the time. It's gonna get boring if you do it the whole day. It does work for a period of 20 to 30 minutes, but it is not superior. We have definitely more useful and effective habits. So I would put this in the growth tier. The next one is YouTube. The reason why I have this in the list is because when going through all the comments, I saw how people were asking, but what about long form content? What about watching long YouTube videos? Long form content YouTube videos are definitely not as damaging as short form content, but it totally depends on what you're watching. If you're looking into something that is kind of just entertaining and doesn't really bring you anywhere in life, then it's not really that helpful. It won't really add that much meaning to your life. But if you're watching some video that actually has something to offer, that actually goes into science or philosophy, that actually makes you a little bit smarter after you're watching it, a video that forces you to learn, then it can be pretty useful, which is why I would put this in the useful tier. But if it's for entertainment purposes, it would go somewhere here. The next habit is cardio. Okay, this one goes straight into the highest tier. From a neurochemical perspective, cardio is amazing. The effects that it has on neuroplasticity, but also on mood, amazing. If it's biking, running, swimming, dancing, you can think about the different kinds of sports that are involved with getting your heart rate up. I can definitely recommend it. Until last year, I didn't do that much cardio, but after realizing the benefits of it and the improvements that it has to your mental state and how it just reduces your need to go on your phone after you do it, it's just amazing. which is why, like, you should be doing cardio five times a week anyway, especially if you're young. You know, you have all the different kinds of zones that you can train in. You're seeing a trend, right? Like, so many people are starting with running, road biking. You can let me know in the comments if you so happen to be a person who's doing that as well. It's something that also takes a little bit longer. You can go on a bike ride for 2 or 3 hours. You can go swimming for an hour. You can go running for 1 or 2 hours. And the effects that it has on your mood also last for a longer time and therefore do not make you want to be on social media that long. The next one is listening to podcasts. In my period of 3 months where I barely use social media, this is something I love doing, because if you're on a bike ride or just walking around somewhere in the city or in nature, or when you're hiking, perhaps even cooking or cleaning, you know, doing the dishwasher, listening to a podcast or to an audiobook, I think it's similar, is really cool, especially if it's a topic you care about, something philosophical, scientific, you know, especially listening to the podcast and not watching it on a screen also has its benefits. You're able to be outside while consuming content that is actually valuable. You're basically doing a 2-in-1. So listening to podcasts, let's put it in growth, because alone it is not enough, but combining it with another activity is amazing. So the next one is hiking. You know where this is going, man. Into the flourishing tier. You might ask why? Last year, I really got into hiking. I went hiking when I was a kid, but then I had a long break. I really didn't care about it. It was kind of boring. But after going hiking alone, just enjoying nature, listening to podcasts, wow. Like, the positive effects that it had on my mood for the following days, amazing. You know, every time you're in a state where you're stressed and anxious and you feel like nothing's going for you, go hiking if you have the opportunity to. Because every single time where I felt a little bit off and like I was in a bubble of stagnation, I went hiking, I enjoyed the nature, I had all these beautiful views. I can blend in some footage here, just so you can understand what I'm talking about. And man, my mental state after hiking for like 3 days, 4 days, positive. My need to be on social media, 0. I didn't care. Like the state was amazing, which is why if you have a couple of hours, like a Sunday or Saturday where you're free, go hiking if you can, drive to the closest mountain. It is so worth it. I think it's so underrated. I never expected it to have such positive effects on my mental state and on my overall need to consume social media. The next habit is studying vocabulary. What I'm talking about here is just having some kind of language that you want to get better in and studying all different kinds of words you don't know yet. So yeah, if you're just able to, for 5 to 10, 50 minutes a day, it really doesn't take that much time, study vocabulary instead of just going on your phone and consuming pointless content. I recommend you doing it. It's not going to change your life, but it's going to lead you towards becoming a more well-spoken individual, therefore also a more confident individual, because as we all know, confidence is mainly a derivative of language skills. If you don't know how to speak a language, it's very hard to be confident in your speech. So yeah, the next one is journaling. This is something I got into a couple of years ago, almost 2 years ago, 1.5 years ago. Again, it's something that should just take 10 to 20 minutes of your day, but it's still better than to scroll before going to bed, because I think a lot of people journal before they go to bed. I mean, you can let me know when you journal. I do it before I go to bed. I mean, you should be avoiding screen time anyways, so having a real journal, so a book with you, of course, makes things easier. I personally track everything in my spreadsheet because I just tend to be somebody who likes working with spreadsheets. So yeah, it's not the most optimal in my situation, but if you have a book, wow, just do that 15 to 20 minutes, combine that with maybe reading, and you will fall asleep much easier. As we all know, and what science also says, screen time before bed is terrible. If you want to have a good sleep, it makes it much harder for you to fall asleep. And yeah, journaling is actually, I would also put it in the growth tier, because it may not be that long of a duration, but you also learn so much about yourself, about your emotions, about your productivity. And understanding yourself is so crucial when it comes to living a life that is aligned with your best interests, because how are you going to know if you're living your dream life if you don't even know what your dreams actually are? Which is why journaling has a lot of benefits. I'm probably going to make a video on it in the future. The next habit is socializing, an introvert's worst nightmare, at least if they do not know the people they're socializing with. I would put this in either in the flourishing or growth tier. I would put this in the flourishing tier, and some people may think it's not that big of a difference. No, it is actually. Having good people around you and doing meaningful things with them, it will make your life so much easier. You see, this one chemical that gets released when you're on social media, dopamine, it's become mainstream, right? I mean, it's good. That same chemical gets released when you are socializing with other people, along with other chemicals like endorphins or oxytocin, which improve your mood, promote safety, trust, and belonging, and it's just so much better. Like if you have the opportunity to do it, do it. If you have friends that you can call, do it. If you have friends that you can meet up with, even if it's just an hour, do it, because you feel so much better afterwards. The science not only backs it up, but fuck, you can back it up. You remember those experiences where you had a good time, you went outside with your friends, or you went to some kind of bar and you felt good. You came home, you wanted to go to bed after meeting up. There was no need to go on your phone because you already received the chemicals that you need in order to feel good. There was no craving for more because everything was already, every deficit that you had in dopamine and oxytocin was replenished through socializing. Of course, now you have to discern between socializing with meaning and socializing that is mainly superficial, so people you barely care about. That, of course, then I would put in the neutral tier, because socializing without purpose, if it's not meaningful, you can might as well just do something with yourself. But if you have good friends around you, wow, it can change a person's life. The next habit is cold plunging. I personally haven't done this myself, but I'm going to do it in the near future because the effects that it has on your mental state, the dopamine increase, the noradrenaline increase, there's a study that shows this. So I can already imagine that it's gonna be good, but I'm gonna put it in the growth tier. I personally just do not have that experience where I can say, is this something that actually allows you to flourish as a human? Maybe it will, but what I've heard from friends who have been doing cold plunging now already for a couple of weeks, they seem to be very fond of it. So the next habit is reading. I'm not the biggest fan of just plainly reading books. I'm a huge fan of audiobooks and podcasts. I read some books, finance related books, the Bible. In general, reading is one of those habits where you have a kind of like steady dopamine release. It's kind of like this effort-based dopamine. You have to work for it. You have to be focused in order to feel the benefits. Nobody feels good when they start reading the book. They feel good after reading a couple of pages. Like, you know how it feels. You start getting into that book and you read a couple of pages, and then all of a sudden you're in this flow state and you read 50 pages on one day. It takes a little bit of time, but I think as a replacement to doom scrolling, I think it's superior because you just learn so much stuff. Okay, of course, depending on what you read, but a lot of the stuff you read does have some kind of meaning. If you don't get anything out of the topic itself, you get something out of the language that is being used, out of the new words that you learn. So I would put reading in the flourishing tier because it's a habit that has a longer duration. Like, you can read for 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, and a couple of hours of reading compared to a couple hours of doom scrolling. The effects are completely opposite, which is why go for it. If you're somebody who loves reading, keep on reading. You're gonna make your life so much easier. The next habit is producing content. So it's kind of the opposite of doom scrolling, where you're just consuming content. There's one issue I have with this, and I noticed it when I started to post on Instagram, on TikTok, like a couple of months ago. I'm not posting short form content anymore. I'm going to explain why. In order to post short form content, I needed to see what trends were going on. I needed to consume content. And I also talked about this on the dopamine detox video a couple weeks ago, and how also it was kind of related to my mental state getting worse again. And you have to be careful about how often you are on social media if you're somebody who has to make videos on it. If it's because it's related to your business or because you're a content creator, it's crucial to discern between what is business related when it comes to consumption and what is meaningless. Because it's very easy to fall in the trap of just drifting off what you're supposed to do, like let's say you have to gather some kind of value, you have to search for some kind of trends because you want to make a trend to promote your business, or you want to make a video that incorporates this trend to promote your business or whatever your business is selling. It's very easy to just fall into your For You page and start consuming pointless content. So producing content can be valuable. It's definitely better than consuming content, but it's not going to do wonders when it comes to reducing your social media consumption. So I would put this in the neutral tier. Perhaps you could put it in the useful tier. Like if you're able to just slam the brake when you notice, okay, this is now getting pointless what I'm consuming, then you're okay, but else you're still on these apps, man, so that's never going to be as good as something like hiking or exercising or socializing. So the next habit is researching topics, so Googling or using ChatGPT or Claude, whatever AI model you like to use to gain more profound knowledge on some topic you're interested in. And the same as with watching YouTube videos, this can either be useful or not, depending on how valuable the topic actually is. So I'm going to put this in the useful tier, just like with watching long form content. The next habit is meditating. This goes straight into the flourishing or growth tier. Wait, now I'm not really sure. Flourishing. I personally recommend non-sleep deep rest or yoga nidra. It takes about 10 to 20 to 30 minutes depending on what kind of practices you want to do. I do them like 3 to 4 times a week and they are amazing. Not only because of the positive effects it has on your brain, it's able to calm your nervous system down quite fast, but also the person who you become. Since I've been meditating, I've become much more relaxed. It's much easier for me to fall asleep at night. It's the ultimate alternative to power naps, and especially to just before bed or when you're stressed going on your phone, because that's what a lot of us do. When we're stressed, we go on our phone. Why? Because we want to feel comfortable. We're looking for relief of anxiety and the stress. Believe me, NSDR, yoga nidra, meditation in general will actually give you that sense of comfort. It will actually give you the respite that you are looking for. Social media is actually exhausting from a neurochemical perspective. So it's not going to do anything to relieve that anxiety. In fact, it's just going to make you more anxious. I mean, you can let me know what you think in the comments, but the next habit is strength training. Again, flourishing tier. As we know, cardio is amazing for your brain and for your body, but it's not enough. You have to combine cardiovascular training with resistance training, mainly because there are different kind of chemicals that get released that are involved that support brain health. Of course, you're good and you're probably fine if you do one of them, but combining both will just increase, first of all, your lifespan. It's amazing for longevity, but it's also going to enhance your mood even more. I mainly now do it because I know what effect it has on me, on my mental state, and I know that after I do it, I feel good about myself, and it kind of then feels dirty to go on social media. You know when you have clean clothes on after you shower and then you see the dirty clothes that you wore before? Imagine putting those dirty clothes on again. That's how it feels to go on social media after you work out. You feel amazing, and you know that social media would kind of just be unnecessary cancer. So if you're somebody who's not been doing strength training until now because they thought, oh yeah, I don't want to go to the gym or something, you don't have to go to the gym. You can also do calisthenics. You can do training of your own body weight. There are different ways to do strength training. There's not only the gym. You don't need to get jacked. You just need to do something that stimulates your anaerobic muscles and you're good. So strength training is definitely something that you should be doing if you want to improve your life and want to reduce your social media consumption. Just think about it. Strength training for 1 hour a day means 1 hour a day of less social media consumption. That's definitely a positive. Of course, now some people are going to be saying, I'm somebody who's lifting intensively and I'm still addicted to my phone. Yes, that's likely because strength training is not enough. You have to combine it with other activities like hiking, socializing, meditating, and so on. The next habit is cooking. I'm not the biggest fan of cooking. I'm somebody who just does things pretty fast. It's not a passion of mine, which is why I cannot really say that much to it. But I know a lot of people who do enjoy cooking and use it as a way how to have a good time and calm themselves down. My question here now is, does it actually lead you to living a more flourishing life, or is it more just kind of like distraction? Because I know a lot of people who bake and cook, And it's not like they're making groundbreaking progress within their lives. It more seems like it's kind of a distraction just to calm themselves down. But hey, I don't know, maybe somebody who likes baking and cooking wants to try out new recipes. So like I said, it's not something that I can relate to, but it's definitely more helpful than hurtful because it's something that requires effort, and it's something that in some way will release dopamine. And dopamine that is linked to effort will always be dopamine that you just get from pointlessly scrolling, which is why I would definitely put it in the useful tier. Perhaps even higher. If I get more into cooking in the future, I'll let you know. Then it could perhaps even go in the growth tier. I'm open to that. But until now, I'm gonna put it in the useful tier. Okay, so now we're gonna speed things up a little because else this video is gonna get too long. I mean, you can tell me what you prefer. Do you prefer me going into depth with all the different habits? Or do you prefer just me briefly mentioning my opinion and ranking them? Because that would of course help me with the future videos. So the next one is prayer or religion. So reading the Bible, praying, and getting more educated with the religion that you were interested in or the religion that you believe in. I personally would put this in the growth tier. If you're not religious, I think then the best comparison would be studying ethics, morals, history, philosophy, and so on. It's definitely something that's going to help you better understand the world, because just by understanding the concept of love and forgiveness in the Bible, it makes it so much easier to forgive people and also just not have resentment and hold grudges towards people. Especially now with social media where it's all about comparing ourselves and saying who has this, who has that. Becoming a less resentful person is of course of a great benefit, which is why this over the long term will lead to growth and especially to less phone consumption. The next habit is creative work. I would put this in the growth tier. I would not put this in the flourishing tier, even though I'm somebody who loves creating stuff myself, including YouTube videos. The problem with creative work is it only gets you so far. You can have an amazing mind, you can have so great ideas, but you often must suffer from the consequences of putting in so much effort into something and receiving barely any feedback. Because you need to survive, right? We all need to earn money. We all need to move on with our life. And being creative is amazing. It's definitely better than doomscrolling, which is why it's in the second highest tier. It's much better, like so much better than doomscrolling. But I think it's not that accessible to so many individuals because the system that we live in, it does not promote human flourishing. It just promotes usefulness for capitalism. And if human flourishing is not necessary to keep the whole system running, well, then it's not going to be something that people prioritize. And it's just not going to be as rewarding for you as something like hiking, in my opinion. Which is why I would say let's move on to the next habit, watching documentaries. This is something I used to do, something that also a lot of people commented on the video a couple weeks ago. I would say it's very similar to watching YouTube videos. It totally depends on the topic, so let's put it in the useful tier. The next habit is learning languages. This is pretty cool. So I would put it into the growth tier. It's very similar to studying vocabulary. I mean, studying vocabulary is kind of learning a language, but when learning a language, I explicitly mean a language that you do not understand. So if it's Italian, Spanish, Russian, Chinese, you know what I'm talking about. And this may seem a little bit weird, but to be honest, no, it's quite obvious. We all know that we use our phone when we're on the toilet. And instead of just consuming content and 10 minutes later forgetting what you watched, just go on Duolingo. That's why I put the Duolingo bird. Okay, some people will now say it's not the best language learning app, but use a language learning app and practice for 10 minutes. Because rather practice a language for 10 minutes, an activity that promotes neuroplasticity, than doing something that just damages you. So over the long term, combine this with studying vocabulary when you're on the toilet. I know it's a little bit... Some people are gonna say, wow, you're so weird, but you see, I'm at a point where I know how people think. And I know that all of you are just gonna be pointlessly on your phone, so might as well do something meaningful and promotional of flourishing, but also neuroplasticity. So yeah, just do it. Fuck's sake. The next habit is learning an instrument. I think this one's very similar to learning a language, which is why I would also put it in the growth tier. Again, a thing that challenges you cognitively, a thing that promotes neuroplasticity, will reduce your screen time and will make it easier for you to be engaged in tasks that are actually meaningful. Like imagine if you're a day all of a sudden, is planned with all these different things. Instead of 3 hours of being on your phone, you have 30 minutes of learning an instrument, another 30 minutes of learning a language, another hour of reading some kind of book, and another hour of walking in nature, exercising. You see how if your day is planned with all these things that allow you to become a more smart individual, there's no need or time to even be on your phone? Is that not amazing? So even if you think that you're a useless piece of shit and are not able to do or learn anything, believe me, get a guitar, get a keyboard or something, do something. Get some kind of instrument and start learning it. Dedicate a couple minutes a day and your life will improve. Who would have thought of that? The next habit is watching Netflix. This one's, it's either gonna go in the neutral or degenerate tier, depending on what you watch. If you're like watching documentaries on Netflix, actually interesting things where you're able to say to yourself, once the video's over, wow, I've learned something. Okay, that's good. Maybe useful, but probably more neutral. If you're consuming like some kind of bullshit series, I mean, you can think about all those series that are just unnecessary and that lead to nothing but you just having a distorted perception of reality, then it's degenerate. There are so many more useful things that you can do. What is a couple of hours of consuming a series gonna do to improving your life? Like I said, this video is not just on focusing what is good when it comes to replacing screen time, but also how high the probability is of the activity to actually you flourishing as a human, because is that not what we all want? It's easy to get off the phone, but it's much harder to actually figure out what we want for our life, and it's much harder to actually feel happy. So I kind of want to combine these two challenges within the one video. I would personally put this in, in the neutral tier, because it could either be here if you're watching value content, like I already mentioned, but it could also be here. So let's put it here. You can tell me if you would rank it lower or higher, or if you perhaps agree with me. The next habit is gaming. Again, it totally depends on what you're playing, but I would say there's no room for it actually being useful. It's something that's more entertaining than productive. It's either going to be in the neutral tier or degenerate tier. Does it require effort compared to social media? Yes, you have to have some kind of skill. Will it lead you to living a better life? Not really. Will it promote neuroplasticity? No. So, fuck it, I'm putting it in the degenerate tier. It's not going to lead you to living a more meaningful life. It's just going to keep you hooked to a screen, and that's something you want to avoid. Time is only a problem in life if you don't know how to use it, and in my opinion, gaming, if done for multiple hours a day, is very destructive. The next habit is listening to music, and I think this one is quite controversial. It's just so weird because you have some people who are saying, I don't listen to music anymore. They're kind of like doing a music detox, and then you have the people who are saying, I love listening to music, like me. I used to be a music producer, so I personally love music, listening to it, all the different kind of genres. It's something that you will never be able to take away from me, especially when I'm lifting, when I need to get myself in a good mood. Music really helps. I understand that people say that like music and the way how it is associated with dopamine release, that it just, makes you dependent, and it kind of has a similar effect in social media. I haven't read any studies on this, which is why I'm not going to say anything scientific. That would just not make that much sense. From my personal experience, especially in the period where I did not use social media so that 3-month period in summer last year, I was still listening to a lot of music. I did not feel a need to be on my phone because of that. In fact, I think it didn't have any effect at all. I was consuming as much music as I consumed before, so when I was also consuming social media, there was barely any effect. I mean, you can let me know if you consume music or you decide to not consume music and how it has helped you, or if it has not helped you. For me personally, this is a hard one. I'm just gonna leave it at the neutral tier. It's something I like doing. I like to listen to music, but it really doesn't have any kind of correlation with a need to be on social media, at least in my opinion. And last but not least, gambling. So this can be going to the casino or just trading meme coins on Pump Fun, or trading futures on Hyperliquid, so using 100x leverage. Yeah, no, so it's just, We all know where this is gonna land. I mean, it's similar to social media. You have constant novelty, you have all the different sounds, the different colors. You just lose money as well. So with that, we've ranked everything. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope that I was able to help you a little bit. Please comment the habits that mean the most to you, your personal experiences. Like I said, I'm always interested in listening to what you have to say. As you can see with the last video, I responded to almost everyone because I love hearing these stories. I genuinely believe that getting off social media, or at least just not pointlessly consuming it, because as we all know, social media does have its benefits, but just kind of getting away from the meaningless part is so crucial to living a better life. And I read so many positive comments. I already mentioned this in the beginning of the video. So like, believe me, it is not rocket science. You don't need to understand the full science behind it. You just have to do it, and the rest will explain itself. So yeah, you can let me know what video ideas you want in the future. Video ideas that are related to this topic, but also video ideas that perhaps are related to social media or something completely else, something with philosophy. I like talking about all of these topics. It's a pleasure for me to make these videos. I love making these videos, and being able to see the impact that they have on improving people's lives is amazing, which is why the only thing I can say is see you in the next one.